Talking X-Factors and bold predictions, not just for the Seahawks, but for the NFC West to help us understand the road Seattle has to take to the playoffs here. Bump, let's start with X-Factors. ESPN's Benjamin Solak put together a list of NFL X-Factors for each team. They do not include quarterbacks, rookies, or coaches. For instance, if you were to tell me, what's the X factor for the Seahawks without those parameters, I'd be like, well, obviously it's going to be if Sam Darnold works out. So let's try to follow the same parameters. An obvious answer for every single person would be Sam Darnold. We're taking Sam Darnold. We're taking Mike McDonald. We're taking Clint Kubiak off the board. We have to look at something else here. You can be otherwise as creative as you want. So I have Ben's answer here. What to you is an X factor, the X factor for the Seahawks this year?
The X factor is going to be offensive line. Yeah. You've invested over the past, 4 or 5 years. You drafted 2 tackles. You drafted a guard. You've drafted a couple of centers / guards in Sundell and Oluwatimi. You've drafted another guard in Anthony Bradford. You've addressed it. The thing about this offensive line is that because it hasn't been as successful as what people want, they forget that every year John is looking. He's not just ignoring the offensive line and saying we're not going to go there. He's looking to draft and develop these guys. And it's almost like he's taking the approach of a quarterback. Now he's brought in some veterans too, right, over the past few years. But it feels like he's taking the approach of a quarterback. You want to get him in young, get him in cheap, develop them, and let's grow from there. So the X factor has to be, can this coaching staff get this offensive line to perform at a high level? Because they didn't go this offseason and start looking for a bunch of veterans and say we're going to revamp this thing. Kubiak, his offensive line coach, John Schneider, all the above, looked at this line and said it probably is enough with this scheme. So the first X factor for me is this offensive line. Can they stay healthy? Can they be cohesive? Create these lanes for the running backs, protect the quarterback.
I absolutely agree. I think that's the right answer, and probably the answer that most listeners are thinking of is going, well, it's the offensive line. Now, Benjamin Solak chose Ken Walker. We had Ben on the show during training camp. He is really, really high on Ken Walker. He thinks he's incredibly talented. So I'm not surprised that Ben chose Ken. Also, Seattle has clearly stated over and over and over again that they want to be better against the run. So you naturally look at like, well, your RB1 is going to be Ken Walker. I do think an X factor argument is one you could make for like Zach Charbonnet. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the X factor, is Zach Charbonnet looking like the Zach Charbonnet that started that game in Arizona and just being really spectacular. I know your counterpoint would be, well, that was also the best game for the offensive line. One thing I want to say, though, is like, it's not like Ken Walker is healthy after missing a full year or new. These 2 running backs were here last year. I think you're right in that the X factor, the change, the thing that must or can be most different is the guys up front. Ken Walker's going to do, like, maybe he's learning and growing, but like you're working with the same pieces in the backfield.
You are working with the same pieces, but I think that if there's anyone who needs to grow the most out of those 2 pieces, it has to be Ken Walker. Some of this stuff is out of his control. He can't control whether he gets hurt or not. That's random things are going to happen. What he can control is commitment to the way they want him to run, right? In a zone scheme, the back is essentially creating the lanes himself. Linebackers are getting to the bodies, and you just have to flow in the right direction. The flow of the zone is going to create different lanes. Like the lane could be on the right B gap one run and the exact same run, the exact same front against same defense. It could be the C gap or the A gap. You just have to feel the flow and give it time to develop. That's the thing, man. I've never surfed before. I don't do that. I don't mess with that surfing, right?
I think you should try it.
But I'm watching, I started watching it on the plane. I started watching Animal Kingdom, right, on Netflix.
Okay, so you didn't listen to all of my suggestions.
Hey, but you know what? Because this was more my speed, and I was like, okay, let me go.
I gave you so
Animal
many good shows.
I'm mad at all y'all listeners for not telling me to watch this. I'm hooked now. I can't wait to watch more.
Literally,
right?
G came in here the other day and told us to watch it. And I thought it was like a Planet Earth thing. And I was like, what are you guys watching? Animal Kingdom? What is this? So that's not what it is.
Well, Animal Kingdom, they're surfing and they're waiting for like the right wave, right? They're waiting for the right wave. And once you get it, you got to anticipate it. Like you see the swell coming and then you hop on it and you kind of feel the wave. That's how I imagine it's like in the backfield. Like you're just watching the swell, and then boom, you get the right one, you got to go. So I need Ken Walker to hone in on the opening scene of the first episode of season 1 of Animal Kingdom and get the wave, see the swell, and just flow with it, man. That is the zone run game. It's a nice little flow. If he can get better at that, he'll be fine. Zach Charbonnet is better at that right now than Ken Walker, but Ken Walker is definitely more talented.
I also need Ken Walker to start getting into Survivor, but I guess no one wants to listen to my show suggestions. 509, our X Factor will be the hometown kid, Cooper Kupp. He's going to be a red zone beast. What do you think about that?
I think he needs to be. I think he'll be more than that, too, though. I wouldn't limit Cooper Kupp to just being a red zone beast. That should be and will be a part of his game, but he's going to be a good blocker. He's going to be smart and finding spaces in the zone. He's going to be where he's supposed to be. His run after the catch is so underrated. I know he's in his 30s, and that's where people start hating, but his run after the catch is underrated. I wouldn't call him – I guess he is a X factor because we just don't know what he's going to bring to this team. So I like that, but I think that I don't want to limit him to just being the red zone guy. I don't think that this texter is either, limiting him to that, just saying that needs to be emphasis because we all know the woes we had in the red zone last year.
Okay, so because we obviously don't cover the Cardinals, Rams, and 49ers, but do very much care about what's happening, I'm going to group all of Ben's X Factor answers together, and our job will be to figure out, for these 3 teams, each of them having an X Factor, if that X Factor works, which of these 3 teams suddenly becomes scariest to the Seahawks? Okay, so Arizona Cardinals, he chose edge Josh Sweat, which was their biggest offseason addition. He said the Cardinals were 26 in team pressure rate last season. Sweat alone can yank that number up if he's beating league average left tackles. So looking especially at them taking a big step defensively. For the Rams, obvious one and the right one, I think. He chose wide receiver Davante Adams. He said if Adams benefits from the easy separation offered by McVay Magic and brings an additional layer of matchup danger for opposing defenses, even Jimmy G can excel under center, though, as we know now, he won't be playing. It'll be Matt Stafford able to start the season. Lastly, the 49ers, what I think you would have chosen, Ricky Pearsall was the one that he chose. He said they need him to be both healthy and capable of providing that late season production on a weekly basis. Okay, let's assume that Josh Sweat works out. Davante Adams works out. Ricky Pearsall works out. All 3 have great seasons. Which of these teams suddenly becomes scariest?
Rams are already going to be scary. Adams could have, let me pull up his stats real quick. Adams could have a pedestrian type season when it comes to him. And let's see what his pedestrian type season looks. How much time we got? We got on the clock?
Yeah, we got 5 minutes.
A little bit. Okay. Bear with me, folks. Okay. A pedestrian season for him, 800 yards. Okay. And I think Adams is going to be fine. He can put up 800 yards. It's not going to make or break this team. They are contenders regardless. If he puts up 800, they're contenders. He puts up 1,100, they're contenders. Sweat. We all know that one guy does not change a defense completely. It adds a dynamic to it, but you're going to need other pieces to fall in line. That's why the Arizona Cardinals went so hard in the draft the way that they did. Pearsall. Over there, you're going to have Juwan Jennings. You got MVS over there as well. They got Sky Moore, too, George Kittle. Pearsall could be a guy to open up that offense. So I think that the guy who would have the most impact in changing the trajectory of the team, I think, has to be Pearsall because they're missing that number 3 receiver over there because you're still waiting on Brandon Ayuk to see what they do. I think that 49ers defense is going to be decent, and I think that the Rams are already set, and the Cardinals just aren't good enough completely to be taken that seriously, even with Sweat. I think they're a good team. I think that will be better. But going into the season, we're looking at the Rams and the Niners to compete for the division. Obviously, the Hawks could be in the mix too, depending on what happens with their offense. But it's all about Pearsall, I think. I'm looking at Pearsall, and if they can add another dynamic to that offense, an offense that's almost guaranteed to work, if everyone's healthy, it's almost guaranteed to work, that's going to be the guy because defensively they're going to be solid too. My
answer is very boring. I went with Davante Adams because I just think that assuming Matthew Stafford is able to start most of the games for this team this year, and assuming that Puka is exactly who we're thinking he's going to be, this is a really explosive offense. It's a deadly offense. And
that's not a boring answer.
and that defense was so good last year. Like,
that's not boring at all.
No, I think that honestly, I mean, the Rams really pushed the Eagles in that game. And I know that people were kind of making fun. Matthew Stafford's wife, I think, said something like, oh, we could have won or something like that. And like, I remember us being like, well, you didn't. But she's also not wrong. You play that game 3 more times. The Eagles are not beating them every time. And I don't like that. If you're a Seahawks fan, you shouldn't like that. So yeah. I think that Devontae is going to have a really good year. And I think that the counterpoint to that must be the Seahawks defense being everything we thought it would be. In fact, in the final, let's see, we have about 3 more minutes here, Bump. Dan Graziano put together his bold predictions, surprise predictions for each team. So this is the second half of what we're doing. Okay. I'm just going to read the Seahawks. Don't be surprised if is how he framed it. And he says for Seattle, their defense keeps them in the playoff race. I liked that one.
He's talking about Seattle.
Mm-hmm. Don't be surprised if.
Nobody here is surprised. You're talking to the rest of the country. Nobody here is surprised.
Like that,
we're banking on this. I'm going to the bank and pulling out a big old withdrawal and saying, look, put this down on the defense, making sure this team is good. Now, you know what? Honestly, I think that most knowledgeable football fans feel that way too, because they know who Mike McDonald is. They know how this defense ended last year. They know the personnel that is there. He must be talking to the fan, the real casual fan,
NFL fan,
who just focuses on their group. But no, nobody in the Northwest or the West in general will be surprised.
I do agree with you there. So what would a more surprising answer be? What would a bolder prediction be?
Don't be surprised if Sam Darnold lights this thing up. That will be surprised because everyone here is sitting and waiting. Even if you believe in Sam Darnold, everyone in Seattle, there's not too many people who get on our text lines and can guarantee that Sam Darnold is going to put together the type of season he had last year. That's a big one. If you believe, text us right now, 866-979-3776. If you guarantee Sam Darnold's going to duplicate what he did last year, go ahead and text us in and we'll give you your flowers if it happens.
Oh, my God. I have my eye on the text line. I'll let you know how many people. I will say I have seen at least a couple people, like regular listeners who text in, and there are a few out there who are like, no, I really do think Sam Darnold will be really good here. So I will give them credit for that. But you're right. The rest of the NFL, I think a lot of people within the NFL look at Sam Darnold and go, yeah, he's really talented. Kind of a bridge guy. And I think it's because we have a very specific mold of what a franchise guy looks like. It's a guy that you draft, I think, for a lot of people, right? When you think of like franchise guy, if I said think of a franchise quarterback, you're thinking of Patrick Mahomes, you're thinking of Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar, maybe Justin Herbert too. Like you're thinking of guys that have been drafted by those teams. They hit the scene. They were really promising early. They were early picks. That's who you're thinking of. I know that some of those.
We got some guarantees coming in, Stacy.
Double down on Sam and K9 rushes for over 1,000. This has quickly turned into a bold take Friday.
Let's go. Let's go.
Very quickly.
I like it.
I mean, I really here's the thing. I don't think Sam will be as bad as some critics do. I was listening to Kevin Clark's This Is Football podcast. I'm a huge fan of Kevin Clark. I think he's really smart. And he chose the Seahawks to finish 4th in the NFC West. Both me, listening at home in a parasocial relationship, and his guest in a real social relationship on the show with him were like, absolutely not. I don't think that happens. And the reason Kevin Clark believed it is he was like, I just cannot let myself believe in Sam Darnold. Like, I cannot do it. And a lot of the same arguments that are fair, but that I've heard before of like, look, I know he got to 14 wins with the Vikings. That was with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Kevin O'Connell as his play caller and an offensive line that was not great but better than Seattle's. There's a lot of factors at play there. A really good defense last year for the Vikings with Brian Flores, like a really smart coordinator. And even then, they were 14 wins and lost in a wild card round. So I am encouraged by how many people see the 360. You're getting around this. Sam Darnold will take us to the playoffs. Now, what does that look like, though? Does that look like a great defense and a great run game and Sam gets 20 touchdowns? Or does it look like Sam getting the 35 touchdowns that he got last year, the more than 4,000 passing yards than he got last year?
I think Sam doesn't have to do what he did last year if all else goes well. If defense plays out of sight, if run game gets gone. So let's help my man.
Yeah. I think as long as Sam is as good as Stacy was at swimming we're going to the championship. I think Sam can be better.
Brown ribbon, let's get it.
Listen, 10th place gets a ribbon. We are moving on. It's time.